Move on. Let me tell you, our viewers, what Truth Lies Shenanigans is all about. We'll be sharing our truths and opinions with you, calling out the lies, and pointing out the ridiculous shenanigans going on. But most importantly on this show, we do try to have fun with some shenanigans of our own. We do have one rule for our hosts. There's no cussing. Guys, no cussing. Otherwise, we're going to penalize you. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're going to penalize you. All right, let's get right on into our big topic of the week. Joe Biden is now president elect. Kamala Harris will be the first ever female vice president. And Donald Trump.
Lose your job. You about to lose your job.
All right, we have a special guest to join us to talk about it. Delegate Joseline Peña-Melnyk joins our show. Thank you for coming back. Joseline, how are you? Let me fix that. All right.
I can breathe deeply and breathe without having any pain. I am hopeful. Honest to God, the stress level in my household has been reduced tremendously. It has affected all of us. All of us. I have not been able to sleep this week, honestly. It's beautiful to see that, he finally got what he needed to be president, and to see Kamala Harris speak yesterday and him, it was just really inspiring, right? Not only can you hope, but you can work hard, you can achieve the dream. I am just really elated.
Now, for those that don't know Delegate Peña-Melnyk, she joined us shortly after she cast her vote at the Democratic National Convention for Joe Biden as an elected delegate in Maryland for Biden. She also serves in the Maryland House of Delegates as a Maryland State Delegate. We are so excited to have your expertise back on the show. Now, I'm just going to start out. When you heard it yesterday, I mean, what did you do? What did you do when you found out yesterday that he was definitely the president elect and Kamala was the vice president elect? What did you do?
I was in my pajamas all day because it was one of those days that I never have. And yesterday I decided to be in my pajamas as I clean. And when I heard it, honest to God, I opened my door. I ran across the street to my neighbor's house because she and I have both been pins and needles. And I said, "Did you hear?" And I said, "I'm going to run back to my house now because I realized I was in my pajamas."
I mean,
it's the streaking for Biden movement.
I was just so excited. I mean, me and my Mel. So me and my wife, we were holding, doing high fives and everything. And it's just like you said. It's like you can finally breathe again. Mark, what was happening with you? What did you do?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how people were down in the U.S., but up in Canada, like I was kind of on pins and needles since Tuesday. I mean, well, even before that, was hoping that Biden would win. And my girlfriend and I are very plugged into news and the election, and we're so relieved that Biden won. I mean, it's been a long 4 years of just chaos. So we're kind of just looking forward to some sanity being brought back. Like
Question.
like every day, the news would come on and there'd be something crazy going on with Trump and his group. And so yeah, we're looking forward to some sanity coming back and some decorum, and yeah, we're very happy.
Robbie, what were your thoughts? No, you've been on the show every week. And we've been talking about Trump, like every day.
I know. It's when I saw the numbers finally roll in, when I saw 284 to 214, I jumped out of my office chair and ran into the living room with the phone out going, "Baby, hey, look at what happened. Look at what happened. They did it. They did it." And it is a big sigh of relief in Canada because Trump's administration has cost Canadians a lot. It has cost the it has caused rifts between our two countries, between ideologies. And after hearing Joe and Kamala's speeches, I feel like the office of the President of the United States finally has reason. And like Mark said, decorum. I've always said that about Trump, just the lack of decorum. So to have that level of respect and decorum in the Oval Office again brings hope about for the international community. It's not just you that was on pins and needles. It's all of us breathing a collective sigh of relief. But I understand it's ground zero for you. So I really hope that the next 4 years can be that of healing and unity and working towards something better.
Now, let me play this clip real quick.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
This was her initial reaction.
You're going to be the next president of the United States.
So humble.
I know,
So
right?
humble. I mean, what a humble individual. Like, that is the honest truth. And they both are humble and charismatic, what we have been lacking for 4 years. You know, it's amazing to have real people with feelings
This is
and
the
honesty.
last 4 years for me have been like, I don't know, I described it several different ways. I described it as like, like I feel like I've been having an asthma attack for 4 years, and suddenly, maybe I got a spritz or something and I can breathe. Or on my page, I put, I don't know if anybody watches the show Naked and Afraid, but, they're in the wilderness for 21 days naked, and they have to figure out, and they're struggling. And then all of a sudden, they get to this extraction point once the time is over. They haven't eaten and everything. And then all of a sudden, they get taken away to feasts and stuff. And I mean, it feels like, oh my God, finally, this is over. The nightmare is over. I mean, it wasn't just that he had bad policies, or that, it wasn't like we're dealing with Bush back in the day where, you didn't like a lot of the stuff he did. You didn't like his policies. This guy was just caustic. And it's so good that it just feels good that will be gone. Joseline?
Yeah, he was such a toxic. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. You go ahead, Mark.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he was just such a toxic individual. Like, I don't think I've ever encountered a more toxic person in the public view. And it's like a glitch in the matrix has been repaired now. Like we were like living like the worst timeline, and now it's like the universe is sort of repairing itself, or at least I hope so. I mean, there's a lot of damage done, but hopefully we can start repairing it.
Yeah, he was just toxic, very, as a Afro-Latina, as a woman, I feel like he wasn't my president, right?
Yep.
And he spoke so poorly of, Blacks, Latinos, people with disabilities. Like, there wasn't a group that he could spare.
Right.
The guy was just really, I hate to say it, he was racist, a bigot, divisive, nasty, disrespectful. I felt like not just the policy work and the issues that should be on the ballot, like healthcare, the economy, COVID-19, education, transportation, all of that. But it was also decency,
Right.
human decency and truth and science. All of that was on the ballot.
Yeah.
And what do we stand for as Americans?
Yeah.
He reflects, like I tell my children, you reflect me like I reflect my parents, right? How I speak, how I behave. He reflected us in the world.
And in the worst way. Let me play this clip here. So I'm going to start with Kamala because I think, like I said, the biggest thing for me is, and the reason I voted so fervently, the reason I even started Truth Lies Shenanigans was because of I just couldn't. It was almost like it was a way to try to save myself because of how I was feeling, and it was a platform that I created. I wanted to create for us to be able to speak out and call out the truth and the lies and all those shenanigans that were going on. But I think secondarily, this is the second biggest thing that happened, and this was about Kamala.
And so I am thinking about her and about the generations of women, Black women, Asian, white, Latina, Native American women who throughout our nation's history have paved the way for this moment tonight. Women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality and liberty and justice for all, including the black women who are too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. And what a testament it is to Joe's character that he had the audacity to break one of the most substantial barriers that exists in our country and select a woman as his vice president.
Yes.
I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
Yeah, because Jocelyn's going to be the
Every
next
little
one.
girl tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. And to the children of our country, regardless of your gender, our country has sent you a clear message. Dream with ambition, lead with conviction, and see
Yes.
yourselves in a way that others may not, simply because they've never seen it before. But know that we will applaud you every step of the way.
Beautiful.
Uh, I
Beautiful.
have to say,
Well
throughout that
said.
entire clip, I was watching Jocelyn's reaction. And Jocelyn, it was like watching a kid on Christmas morning. That her words were resounding so deeply with you, just as a female politician. It's, you know, a person of color in the U.S. And what was the impact of that for you personally?
Yeah, I have to say, as an immigrant myself who came to this country with a mother who didn't even study to the third grade, but always said that education was important. You know, she got to me yesterday. It moved me because I had a dream and I worked hard, but I didn't have a lot of role models. And little girls can see her. They can see her today and they can dream, and that is powerful. I have a set of twin girls that are in college. They can see, and there's a saying that says you cannot be what you can see. And now we can see. That is powerful. It is moving. It is inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, I mean, biggest thing was getting Trump out, but that is the biggest thing. I mean, Biden's great. Love Biden. But even when she became the candidate for vice president, I was excited and just it started to like galvanize me and the movement that I had behind Biden by selecting her because, you know, throughout the whole presidential run, I wasn't sure who I really liked as a candidate. I really wasn't sure on Biden. That Biden, he sold me on his heart, um, which was a good way to go. But it was really Kamala that kind of galvanized that for me. Mark, did you have any comments?
Well, yeah, I just I pretty much echo everybody here. Like it's really uh, great to see some representation finally for you know people leading your country, and it just even people that can speak in complete sentences. You know, like it it's good to see some intelligence back in leadership. You know, no more anti-science, no more anti whatever. You know, like we can just get back to business.
Yeah, I do want to talk about. Well, first, let's talk about Trump supporters because there's a comment online from. Let me see if I can find it real quick. From Mike Winter, it said we have to deal with the fact that 70 million people voted for him, several of them because he spoke to their racist ideologies. Biden did say this.
All those of you who voted for President Trump, I understand the disappointment tonight. I've lost a couple times myself, but now let's give each other a chance. It's time to put away the harsh rhetoric, lower the temperature, see each other again, listen to each other again.
Yeah.
And to make progress, we have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They are Americans.
So, Jocelyn, how did, I mean, when we're talking about these Trump supporters, and Mike Winter made the great point of 70 million people, which is the second most number of votes for any candidate in history for Donald Trump, says that there is a lot of people who support his ideals, his personality, who he is. I mean, how do you bridge the gap between that, knowing that if he was so divisive? How do we bridge the gap between those supporters?
When I first saw that number, I was really sad.
I was too.
I was really sad because I knew that there was division, but to see it that close
Yes,
really is very telling about our country and about people. And that was really, it broke my heart
I'm with
because
you.
I didn't believe those numbers.
Yeah,
We have a lot of work to do. And I think that if anyone can do it, is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they have the heart, the warmth. They can feel people. His heart is open. You can honestly, last night when you listen to him, you can tell that he meant it, that it
yeah,
was honest from his core. And that is what this country needs so that we can heal. And I know that he is going to work on it and he will surround himself with people that can have those values, they share those values and principles, that we're all the same and that he's the president for everyone, regardless. And he keeps saying it and he needs to repeat it so that people can believe it and start accepting it.
yeah.
But I was very disappointed in those numbers.
And I want to get to Rob B and Mark real quick, but I want to say that was telling to me. Is like when you I was just and I was talking to my wife while it was going on. I was like, I can't believe that many people voted for him. I just can't even believe it. Even before I saw the numbers, I'm just like I don't understand what it is that is appealing. And I don't believe that we have 70 million racists in the country. I don't think we have 70 million evil people in this country, or people that are like Trump, or I just don't believe that. But there is something that draws them to him. And I am just shocked, honestly. I'm shocked that there is such that divisiveness. Robbie, Mark?
It's like you said, there aren't 70 million. Okay, there may or there may not be 70 million racist people in America,
May or may
but
not.
it may or may not be, right?
They actually might.
So it's just might be, but that's it. It just he appeals to a lot of those groups that they're fringe groups because he appeals to multiple platforms. He supports multiple platforms that promote xenophobia, that promote ignorance, that promote if you're making 400K or more, you're not in line with Biden's tax plan. So people who are pulling down money are going, well, that's a reason for me. I want to protect what's my pile. And I'm hoping that Joe's speech was very telling that they want to collaborate, that they want to work together, not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. They're opponents on political platforms, but at the end of the day, you're serving the good of the American people. And you have to find that middle ground somewhere. You're going to do it by seeing one another again, listening to one another. What are the needs?
Right.
What are the issues? And seeing Joe and Kamala's families together on stage when the fireworks were going off.
Diversity. Mm-hmm.
The diversity on stage. It was beautiful to me. It's like, okay, that's the melting pot that they're always talking about. And we're seeing it visibly. It's there. So
Yes.
Since you mentioned that, let me just play this one clip.
Proud of the coalition we put together, the broadest and most diverse coalition in history. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, progressive,
That's right.
voters, conservatives, young, old, urban, suburban, rural, gay, straight,
Yeah.
transgender, white, Latino, Asian, Native American. I mean it, especially for those moments, and especially for those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African American community stood up again for me.
He did. He did.
We've always had
I
your
love
back,
this.
and I'll have yours.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yes, and
Yes.
I wanted to address that. I mean, he said, I mean, he pointed out the black community had his back. I mean, in South Carolina, when he was at his lowest and he was looking like he might not, make it through the primaries, South Carolina, the black community came out in droves and voted for him in the primaries, and he skyrocketed into first place ahead of Bernie Sanders. And you look at the diversity. Rob mentioned it on, in that crowd everywhere and throughout, even Kamala herself. You're looking at, so he's really changing the dynamic of politics, and doing the right things. But early on, the black community, there were some in the black community who were saying Biden is not for the black community. Biden is not for the black community. He's done things against the black community. I just want to ask Joseline real quick, what are your thoughts on Biden and the black community?
Look, as a legislator, I can tell you that there are bills that you vote for at the beginning of your career that you look back and you may not have supported it because you have more information, right? You learn more about the topic, more about the community. I have met him, and I can tell you that he has a beautiful heart and that he loves the black community. He loves everyone because that is just who he is. And his wife, they have a good heart. They're good people.
Yeah.
They're good people. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we need to educate people. But you know what? Actions speak louder than words. And I am confident that his cabinet will be a rainbow, and
Yeah.
his cabinet will be respectful of the black community. And like he said, he's going to have the black communities back because he's grateful and he knows that he couldn't be where he's at today without the black vote and the Latino vote in Nevada and Arizona and Pennsylvania. Because we were calling the Latino community, I was calling the Latino community every week in Pennsylvania. So he is extremely grateful. It is the black community and brown community that has gotten where he's at, especially the black community, black women.
Yep. And if you, no one can ever say that your vote doesn't matter, because a race this close, if we didn't have everyone talking about go vote, go vote, go vote, getting those people in inner cities out to vote, some of these margins were in the tens of thousands of people. That's not a lot. That's barely enough to fill a arena, a basketball arena. I mean, that's not a lot of people. When you're talking 70 million, and some of these votes were just, I mean, it is so wonderful to see that people really went out to vote. I mean, it was great to see it on Trump's side. I mean, he got his people out to vote. I mean, that's why it was so scary. But I mean, just to see 150 million, half, at least close to half of the American population out voting, participating, was great to see to me. Mark, did you have any?
But look at Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams registered more than 800,000 people in Georgia.
Wow.
She helped register more than 800,000 people.
Wow.
I think it's beautiful.
Mark, did you have any comments?
Well, just what you had mentioned before about the 70 million people, and are there that many racists? And I think, sadly, I do think there are that many racists. I think Trump kind of put out the bat signal for those people when he was running and got elected. It was kind of like a signal that you can be more open with your xenophobia and so on.
That's true.
But I hope that people can start being educated again and start being friendlier and more open to communicate with each other, because I couldn't imagine another 4 years of Trump, and where would your country be after another 4 years?
That scared me.
The experiment, the American experiment, I think would have been finished.
Yeah.
The Republic would have been finished. And that's scary, because we're right above you guys, and you guys are one of the world leaders in terms of countries, and it's scary to think about what the alternative could have been.
The night,
and I think
the night of the election,
we have to learn from this.
Yes, no question.
Yes.
The night of the election, I'm going to tell you, I could not sleep because I was so scared of another 4 years. I was scared.
Me
I
too.
mean, I don't know
Yeah.
that I've ever felt like that. I mean, where it felt so out of control and like, what am I gonna do? I just can't do another 4 years.
Yeah.
I just
And
want
like
to.
there was all sorry, there was all these memes going around about find yourself a Canadian to adopt you kind of thing, and it's just like it's a joke.
Wow.
But I mean, even the previous election when Trump got in, I had American friends reach out to me about like staying at my place and stuff. It's funny, but it's not funny. Like when you have that much despair that you're actually thinking about leaving your country and crashing on
It was at
somebody's
least a
couch.
thought in my head.
Like, and even this election too, like I had a few people that were serious and not serious, about like, can I move in with you? Because this is scary, and it's sad.
To your earlier comment, Mark, about there probably are 70, you believe there could be 70 million racist people. I mean, Lizzie is online. There is no difference between a racist apologist enabler and a racist to me. It's the same result. So what
Yeah.
she's saying in essence is, yeah, of the 70 million, if you're supporting, she feels if you're supporting Donald Trump, then you are a racist. I don't know if I personally agree with that, but um, I think people can have other reasons for supporting an individual. But with that
Absolutely.
being
One of
said,
one of the other comments online is from your wife, where she states that she met a black male yesterday that's a Trump supporter, and he was very angry that Trump lost. He's against Kamala, and a lot of black men don't like her. And my wife Jose's response is in there. I can't keep up with the stream,
it's
but
tough.
just saying that, yeah, right. But her comment was to the effect that strong, powerful women intimidate a lot of men. And I can see where the misogyny would come into play, where it's just like, well, no, like she's the next in line, I can't cast my vote there.
Hmm.
So they're still divisive ideas, but it may not be based on race entirely, but it is definitely based on some
Divisive
form of
ideas. That's a great point.
xenophobia.
I
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I had an interview once for I was seeking, as you know, when you run, you seek endorsement
Hmm.
from different organizations and the media. And I remember being interviewed, and I'm not going to say by who, but this very powerful organization. And one of the gentlemen asked, "I heard that you're very aggressive." I said, "I'm not aggressive.
Aggressive.
Excuse me." I said, "I am passionate. And when I
Aggressive.
believe in something, I give it my absolute best." But that was told to me during an interview for endorsement.
Yeah.
And
And that's
people do think of
yeah.
women, and especially black women, like we're angry,
The angry
and
black
and
woman.
and and that's not the case.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
we are passionate and we fight for what we believe. And you have to understand my culture, all of it.
And it's out of necessity. I mean, if you've been held back your entire life and you are not being given the rights and the ability to the equality that you're seeking, you've got to be able to speak up. You've got to be able to. If you think back to slavery times, I used to wonder why slaves never revolted, right? Why the slaves? I mean, there were attempts throughout history for slave revolts, but ultimately, it never happened. But if you go back to earlier history, it happened with Native Americans. They tried to enslave Native Americans. They tried to enslave. And I know I'm going on a tangent here, but they tried to enslave Native Americans. They tried to enslave. I think it was uh, indentured servants. I think were mostly Irish Americans at the time, and they
Mhm.
tried to enslave those. But those people didn't allow it because Native Americans would escape, or they had help from their tribesmen. Of course, we know what happened to Native Americans being obliterated. But with that being said, it really comes down to you've got to be able to speak up. You've got to be able to fight. And these tropes of angry black woman, angry black, that is ridiculous. You have to speak up. You have to be able to fight for what's right and get what you need.
Well, everybody deserves to have a voice in the room.
Yeah.
Like not one person should be louder than the other. And usually that's what happens in politics is that the loudest, most obnoxious person gets
Very
the
true.
power.
Very true.
You know, and in terms of like, you brought up slavery and everything. A lot of it that plays into not fighting back is the mental health aspect and wearing somebody down mentally. And the PTSD and everything. A lot of these, even, I mean, there's lots of tangents I can go on, but a lot of it is played upon with the mental health aspect of keeping people down.
Yeah. So we've run out of time. So I want to close out, and I want to ask Joseline this question. Where do you see, now that we have Kamala, we have Biden, where do you see the future of the Democratic Party at this point? I mean, I know you're a Democrat, and like I say, Black people felt disenfranchised by the Democratic Party, but others have too. I mean, the Trump voters have felt disenfranchised. Where do you see the future of the Democratic Party as a whole?
I think that as a party, we need to be more inclusive. Especially, we cannot forget that even though Biden won, thank God, that you still have Elizabeth Warren, you have Bernie Sanders, and you had a lot of people that were running, and that there are a lot of people that feel that they have not been included and not brought to the table. So I think you're going to see new people in leadership. You're going to see more of a rainbow in the room, and I think that the party is very much aware of that. And you can see by the efforts that were made, the calls to Georgia, to Pennsylvania, to Florida, the fact that the party, brought it, sort of worked on different coalitions and helped Biden build it. I think that as we move forward, we have to do things differently. People have spoken and they want that. And
And
it's about being in the room, right? It's about
yeah,
being in the room.
and my final question to you is, when are we going to see you in Congress so we can?
You know what? I try in 2016,
I remember.
and I gave it my absolute best. I left it all out there. I was able to get the endorsement of the Washington Post, and the community supported me. But I did not win, so it wasn't my time. And you don't know what the future holds, right? I love to serve. I'm not in this, honest to God, because I'm thinking of what's the next move.
And I know this
I'm in
about you.
it.
I know this
I
about
do
you.
this 7 days a week. It's a part-time job. I go to a hospital. I go to a school. I do food distribution. I do this from my heart in a very humble way. And
There's no question.
you know, we'll see what the future holds. I love my community.
And this is why I
I
want you to
really do.
run, because that's what we need.
Thank
That's
you.
what we need
Thank
now.
you.
And so I appreciate you so much for joining us. This was an incredible discussion. So
Yes, thank you
you
so
are
much for
welcome
joining us.
back often.
Yeah.
Thank you for having a beautiful, generous heart. I am optimistic. My children are optimistic,
Yeah.
But we need to worry about those people that didn't vote for him, and we
Yes.
need to help bring them, to the table and address it as well. And we're ready.
All right.
It
Thank you
was a
so much.
pleasure and honor being with you, Mark and Rob.
Thank you so
Yes,
much,
it was a
Delegate
pleasure meeting you.
Joseline Peña-Melnyk.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Incredible conversation. Incredible conversation. Any final thoughts?
The one thing that really struck me about Joe when he got up and spoke is he immediately endorsed his wife, just saying, I wouldn't be here without Jill. I'm Jill's husband. I wouldn't be. And he was just, I don't remember ever hearing Trump ever hoisting up his wife and his family.
That's true.
And just, so to say
Always
that
about him.
exactly. So now we have a president-elect who displays humility, who displays traditional good family values. That was something that really struck me to the core, and that his wife is a former teacher. So now First Lady is a retired school teacher. That's important.
All right, let me get to some quick comments online that I saw. A lot of comments about Stacey Abrams. Stacey Salai says Stacey Abrams is the legend. Mel Blaine said Stacey Abrams, she did her thing. Rupka says, glad Trump is out and someone I can truly understand who can speak English. Paul Hatsis says, so no current concerns about Trump winning in the Supreme Court? That's a great question. We should have asked that while she was on there. I'll just say I don't believe that's going to be an issue because he would have to prove widespread voter fraud, and the number of states that he's lost, he would have to prove that all of those states were cheating against him, which is virtually impossible for him to prove. So,
there's never been voter fraud.
Yeah,
it's such a conspiracy theory. Like there's never been proof of voter fraud ever.
there's been minor proof, but the
Minor ones, but not.
We're talking
like not
two
on
or
the scale
three.
that he's talking about.
Right, we're talking in the tens, not even the tens of thousands or even the thousand. We're talking in like, and the funny thing is, the ones that have been investigated so far have been Republicans, and Trump supporters, and they found to be. All right, so we've got to move on. There's a lot of comments online, so we appreciate you commenting online. Unfortunately, we've got to move on. So we are going to jump into our hot topics.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.